We say lead, follow, or get that kind of money.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 18th, 2019 meeting of the Shawnee Planning Commission. We'll start with roll call. Commissioner Montgomery.
Here.
Commissioner Roth is absent. Commissioner Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Willoughby.
Here.
Commissioner Beanhoff.
Here.
Commissioner Busby is here. Commissioner Wise.
Here.
Commissioner Braley.
Present.
Commissioner Les Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Mudgett is absent. Commissioner John Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Consent agenda items 1 through 3 are listed under the consent items agenda. Unless there is a request to remove the items from the consent agenda, the items will be approved in one motion. Is there a request to remove any items from the consent agenda? Not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Commissioner Wise?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items per staff recommendations.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Montgomery?
I second the motion.
Motion is second to approve the consent agenda items per staff recommendations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Under new business, SP 061903 and SUP 011903, approval for a special use permit for an auto dealer's license in the planned industrial zoning district and site plan approval for a facade revision at 8451 Cole Parkway.
Good evening, Doug Allman, Community Development Director. Tonight, the applicant is proposing to do a tenant split of an existing building. If you're familiar in Perimeter Park, this is what was known as the former Talus building. It had been vacant for some time, and then it was actually occupied later by an e-cigarette manufacturer. That user vacated the premises, and so it has been empty for a while. It was recently purchased, and it's been announced that over on the east side of the building, the VA is going to occupy that 80,000 square feet, and they're going to do a distribution process out of that side of the building. All of their access will come off the cul-de-sac. That created a situation where the remaining 50,000 square feet on the west end of the building is still vacant. And what is being proposed is that they're going to do high-end storage of motor vehicles in that facility, which is allowed in that district. But as part of that operation, there is an occasional title traded or an internet sales type of situation that may occur. And so they are requesting an auto broker's license, which in the PI district requires a special use permit. If you notice, to differentiate the tenant space from the VA side in your packet, they are looking at dressing up the building. This is where the red and all that glass work is on the southwest corner of the building. That would become the primary entrance for that particular tenant. They're also proposing a covered shade structure where the motor vehicles can be placed when they're requested to be picked up so that their owner can take them out for a drive. To be differentiated again from the VA, they're looking at doing a decorative picket-style metal fencing around their portion of that facility. I believe part of that is a requirement of the VA to keep the two uses separate, but they are actually set up that they will have access off of Cole Parkway. Their access will be separate from the VA. In terms of a recommendation, staff recommends approval of SUP 01-1903 and SP 06-1903, site plan and special use permit for JW Autosports with the following recommendation conditions. The parking area is located around the building shall not be used as an automotive car lot. Vehicles shall be kept inside the building unless they are waiting for owner pickup. 2, the exterior improvements shall be made as shown in the approved site plan. And 3, approval and review of this SUP in 1 year. I believe the applicant is present if you have questions specific to the special use permit.
Very fine. Thank you, Doug. Is the applicant present? If you'd come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Chris Bauer. I do represent JW Motorsport. Do you want my business address?
That'd be fine.
My address is 12851 Foster Street in Overland Park.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for the applicant or staff? Commissioner Peterson?
Hello. Okay, I noticed here, where are the cars going to come in and out? Is that at the rear of the building? Am I just missing that on my little sheet? Or are they coming in this very front glass area? Yeah.
So this is, if you notice, there's a rear door, an overhead door from the original operation.
Ah, that was the one I was missing.
Fence. This is the distribution area for the VA. They're retaining one overhead door. I'm assuming that some of these high-end motor cars will be delivered by truck.
Oh, sure.
And so they've afforded turning movement where the truck entrance would be down here, customer entrance here, and then they'll actually put the inventory into the building through that overhead door.
I missed that on my page, so thank you for that clarification. The other thing, too, is are there going to be like lifts inside or any of those types of things where you double stacking cars or?
There likely will be stacked some cars inside.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions for applicant or staff? Commissioner Braley?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. These are more curiosity questions for me. I noted on the drawings that the separation's a 2-hour security and sound barrier. Is that a solid wall? What is that exactly separating the two spaces?
That might be a question for Carrie, the architect on the project.
Okay. Let me ask one more question, Carrie, and then you come up. And then because of vehicles going in and out, are you required for any special HVAC venting systems when you're running cars into contained areas?
It's also probably a question for Carrie, but
Great.
yes, there will be special exhaust equipment.
All right. Yeah, Carrie, yeah, please.
If you'd please state your name and address too, sir.
So, well, my name
is Carrie Knott, 12817 Sagamore, Leawood, Kansas. I'm the architect working on the project along with Chris. The partition you mentioned, it is a 12-foot high masonry wall, and then from 12 feet up to the roof structure, 24 feet, it's a 2-hour fire-rated drywall system.
Oh, okay.
The floor as it sits today will support 12 feet of drywall without footings and foundations, so we built that and then carried the rest up with lightweight drywall. There's a 2-hour separation between the two tenants, and at the request of the VA tenant. That's what their separation requires. As far as the exhaust, yes, we will. We'll have, most of those cars will be there. They won't run in there very often. They'll be sitting in there either on the surface or in racks, and they'll have electrical trickle charges to them, so they're available for an owner to come and pick up and drive anytime they want. But we do have a service portion there that'll have heavy exhaust fans that we will have as ceiling mounted exhaust fans that will be used to get rid of automotive smells and vapors. Obviously, we're very concerned. That's why we built this 2-hour wall and have sealed it up so that there are no potential leaks from one space to the other. So we have heavy exhaust systems and a pretty significant separation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We're in for a building permit on the VA side. I actually got my first round of comments back from Chris today.
Okay.
Which is
Great.
amazing, quite frankly, since
Yeah.
I submitted it Friday.
Commissioner John Smith?
I don't know who can do this. I think you mentioned that there'd be separate entrances. Can you point out to us where the VA entrance is and where the entrance to the car
Yes.
facility is?
Be happy to. Yeah, if you're looking at that, can I point on here? Is that what I do? As you see, the demising partition here separates the VA from our intended use on the west side. And then on the west side of this wall, you'll see this ramp. It's more of a white colored ramp. I think the planning commissioner asked about how we get in the, you see the white ramp that's there? That's about a 60-foot long ramp that will lead you up to from surface to dockside through an existing overhead door. And we will be adding another overhead door just next to it for deliveries. Just a regular 10-foot overhead standard door. Then all the rest of the overhead doors on that side of the wall, there will be a demising exterior concrete, precast concrete partition wall separating our side, or Suite A from Suite B, which is basically right here, right there. The entry to this suite is actually in the corner here, in this nice area where we built a lobby and we have adding the new storefront, the sidewalk, the ADA accessible lift, make it a very appealing and nice looking entry to that side. The entry to the VA side is actually down here in the other corner, right here. That's their main entry. Now they have an employee entry that comes off the side here, but their main entry is in this corner and our entry is in this corner. So our address is actually going to be off of Cole Parkway, 450 Cole Parkway. Yes.
I drove out there. This is a huge building, and I was trying to figure out where this was a distance stops.
Both occur on the side where the parking is, the asphalt parking, and not the opposite sides.
Commissioner Bienhoff?
Yes, first I'd like to thank you for moving your business to Shawnee. And curiosity question about how many vehicles you plan to be able to store in the facility?
The vehicle storage now, including on the floor and in the lifts, is going to be about 85 automobiles.
Any other questions for applicant or staff? I have a question, and that is in the notes there's a mention of outdoor seating amenity for occasional weekend member events.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain that
Sure.
further?
Be happy to. I move this around, Doug, a little bit. So down here where we've got where we're building the canopy, that's basically going to be an open pavilion where not only can we park the cars, as Doug had mentioned to you, but they also have, we're going to put power out there and a barbecue out there so we can actually have gatherings for his customers to come out there and use that covering for shelter to do. And the events would be minimal. I mean, literally once a month event is what we're talking about.
And I presume the applicant has been doing something similar to this before, or is
This
this?
is kind of a new gig.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this is a new deal. He has a facility like this. It's in Overland Park, but it'll be moving here also.
Mhm.
The other operation.
Terrific. So these member events realistically are weekend,
Correct.
once a month or so?
Maybe once a month and during the week.
And in looking, I know you retain some of the parking spaces here that are probably not needed with the amount of employees you can have there. But is there enough parking for your weekend events?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So you can see
So-
our If you look, here's our fence goes clear around to here where it's darker shaded. That would be all of Suite A's parking, and the lighter color would be all of the VA's parking.
Mhm.
And their operation is an 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 operation Monday through Friday. So there's plenty of parking out there, but we've separated our parking from theirs because that's the way they wanted it for the lease.
And again, out of curiosity, how many people usually come to these weekend events?
I'm not sure I know the answer. I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I'm sorry, but it's people that have a really nice car.
It's not a huge community of people.
Okay, specialty car people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
I mean, it's
very
like
fine.
a Ferrari Road Rally maybe, or something like that, or Lamborghinis. Or,
Yeah, we don't have many of those in my neighborhood, so
I
I'm
won't
glad
be-
you're
I won't-
coming
I
here.
might go watch, but I won't be having a car.
Very fine. Does the committee have any other questions for staff or applicant?
May I make one comment?
Please.
I mentioned 85 cars, but please don't hold me to that. We talked about 100 cars at one time, but right now, if you looked at the plan I have developed with the number of lifts, it's about 85 cars. But there could be more than that if the demand is such that we could put more lifts in there if we had to.
Very fine, thank you. Mhm.
That's good.
Is there anyone, this is a public hearing, is anyone from the audience care to join in on this? Seeing no one come forward, then the public hearing will be closed, and we'd be in commission discussion. Commissioner Beanhoff.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, again, I just, appreciate the business moving to Shawnee, and I think this is a great use for the site.
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, would someone care to propose a motion? Commissioner Wise.
I'll make a motion to approve SP 06-19-03 revised site plan and SUP 01-19-03 special use permit for auto dealer's license for JW Motorsport at 8451 Cole Parkway per staff recommendations.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Beanhoff.
Second?
There's a motion and a second to approve SP 06-1903 and SUP 01-1903. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Z01-1903, pre-plat 02-1903, approval of rezoning from AG agriculture to residential suburban, and preliminary plat approval for Monticello Ridge, a single-family residential subdivision located at 21701 West 73rd Terrace. Mark?
Good evening, Mark Silsdorf, City Planning Staff. This property is developed with an existing single-family home on 5.3 acres. The applicant intends to subdivide the property into 2 lots, keeping the existing home as it is, and then constructing a new single-family home on the newly created lot. Surrounding zoning includes residential suburban zoning to the west on the south side of 73rd Terrace, and ag zoning in all the remaining directions around this property. Surrounding land uses include single-family homes on large lots to the west along 73rd Terrace. There's a cemetery to the east of this site, and then there is another single-family home to the east at the end of 73rd Terrace. Land use guide of the comprehensive plan anticipates low-density residential development for this area. The plat provides 1 additional single-family lot to create an overall density of 0.4 dwelling units per acre. Therefore, the proposed use and density is in compliance with the land use guide. Access will be from individual residential driveways off of 73rd Terrace. Access is adequate for circulation and public safety purposes. All utilities are available to both lots with the exception of sanitary sewers. Public sewers are not currently in this area. The existing home is served by a private individual septic system, as will the newly proposed lot. The rezoning of the property will not have a detrimental effect on the surrounding area. The property is developed with a single-family home. The city's comprehensive plan anticipates continued low-density residential development in the area, and the addition of one additional single-family home on a large lot is compatible with the development patterns in the area. Approving the request will not negatively impact the health and welfare of the community. The property will continue to be used for residential purposes. The rezoning of the property and subsequent platting of the property from 1 to 2 lots for the development of one additional single-family home will not overburden public service provisions or traffic circulation. As far as the preliminary plat, preliminary plat consists of 2 lots in the right-of-way for 73rd Terrace on 5.37 acres. Lot 1, which has the existing home on it, contains 2.0 acres, has approximately 370 feet along 73rd along the north, and 146 feet along the east side. Lot 2, Lot 2 will contain 2.23 acres and has approximately 317 feet of frontage, public street frontage. The front building setbacks are platted at 35 feet. Side yard shall be no less than 15 feet, and rear yard setbacks shall be 35 feet. Both of these lots exceed the minimum requirements of the proposed zoning district, and the existing house, actually the existing house on Lot 1 also meets the required setbacks. As previously stated, utilities are available with the exception of sanitary sewer. Due to the lot size and the existing trees along the south property line, the applicant has requested that utility easements be placed along the street right away for the newly developed lot. Staff believes this is a reasonable request and is supportive of it, provided the ground-mounted utility boxes are screened with landscaping. Lot 1 will continue to use the existing driveway. A new driveway approach will be required for Lot 2. And this will be up at the northeast corner of the lot. Access control will be provided along the right-of-way of the street's future southern extension, limiting driveway access to that northeast corner on Lot 2. This plat is for conveyance purposes. The right-of-way for 73rd Terrace, as well as right-of-way for a future street connection to the south, will be dedicated along with the plat, although no public street improvements will be required as part of this plat. On-site detention is not mandatory because of the low impact of the development and because there are no known inadequacies downstream of the development. The applicant will comply with the stormwater detention regulations by paying a detention fee of $350 for the new lot that is created. This development is also subject to provisions of Shawnee Municipal Code Chapter 1226, which is the city's excise tax. The estimated excise tax for this development is $24,700.06. The developer may enter into an excise abatement agreement with the city that would allow for the suspension of the excise tax that is due. This agreement between the property owner and the city shall be created, agreed upon, and executed prior to obtaining the mayor's signature on a recording copy of the final plat. And open space fees in the amount of $400 per residential unit shall be paid prior to issuance of the building permit. And for the open space fee, Lot 1 is exempt from this requirement because it has an existing single-family home on it. As far as staff's recommendation, staff recommends approval of Z-01-19-03, rezoning from AG Agricultural to RS Residential Suburban, subject to the following condition. And that would be approval of the rezoning by the City Council and publication of the rezoning ordinance as required by state statute. Staff would further recommend approval of pre-plat -02-19-03, preliminary plat for Monticello Ridge, subject to the conditions as listed within the staff report.
Thank you, Mark.
Staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mark. Is the applicant present? If you please come forward and state your name and address.
Matt Cox with Allen Brand Drews, 122 North Water in Olathe, representing DAC Ventures.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for applicant or staff? Commissioner Willoughby.
So my question is the 317 feet of frontage for lot number 2, and there'll be only a small part of it, 100 feet or whatever of before that street turns east again. Is it? I mean, can we say it's 317 feet even though that road isn't there?
Mark Zilsdorf, city planning staff. Yes, the way that what they're doing, even though the existing street, better on this one. Even though the existing street does continue on to the east, with this plat, they are dedicating public street right of way down to the southern property line for the future extension of that street.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be, I think it goes something similar to that right there.
Right,
So that lot will have that 300 and some feet of actual public frontage onto a public street eventually. Right now, there's not an actual street there, but it will be fronting that dedicated right.
And that's okay.
That is okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson.
Along these same lines, the property directly to the south that is heavily treed, and I have no idea what the terrain is like. What is it currently zoned? Is it ag or is it residential?
It is zoned agricultural.
Okay.
It's shown in the future land use guide shows it to be developed as low density residential.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for applicant or staff? Commissioner John Smith?
It's probably covered down on the staff report, but is there any testing required to put in another septic tank or something in that area? I'm not sure what you're planning there to handle the surge.
And it will be a septic tank, and we have a
with laterals.
yes.
And has there been any percolation tests or anything?
Not to my knowledge, and not yet.
But that will probably be required.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for applicant or staff?
If I may.
Mark?
Commissioner Smith, those septic systems do have to be permitted and approved by Johnson County Environmental. So they will review that situation and issue a permit.
Thank you. Any other questions for applicant or staff? Commissioner Beanhoff?
Just a clarification from Mr. Zilsdorf. On the septic, that's not under our purview at all as planning commission. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct.
It's all under Johnson
all
County.
through Johnson County.
Thank you.
Any other questions for applicant or staff? If not, as this is a rezoning, then would be under public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to come forward and speak on this matter? Seeing none, then I would close the public hearing. And we'd now be in commission discussion. Commissioner Peterson.
I'm aware that this showed up on a real estate search. So is this property already on the market pending what we're able to do with it? Or not that that matters per se? I was just curious.
I can't answer that. I'd have to have the applicant answer that. I know it has been recently sold. The 5.37 acres is recently sold.
Got it. Thank you.
Then we'd still be in commission discussion. Hearing no discussion, would someone care to make a motion on both the rezoning and the preliminary plat? Commissioner Montgomery.
I move for approval of Z-01-19 the rezoning from AG Agriculture to RS Residential Suburban, and the preliminary plat 02-19-03 for Monticello Ridge, a single-family residential subdivision located at 21701 West 73rd Terrace, per staff recommendations.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner John Smith?
I second Mr. Montgomery's motion.
The motion is second to approve Z011903 and pre-plat 021903. Any further discussion? Not all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. And this puts us into other business, as in non-monkey business. Does the staff have anything for us poor old commissioners up here?
I just have one item. Just before coming in here, Dave Holtwick texted me and wanted me to let you know that the Quick Trip at 67th and Neiman is actually closed. It closed today. We had been anticipating that based on real estate listing, but maybe a little bit quicker than what we'd anticipated. But it is closed for business. So we'll be working diligently for a reuse of that property. There's actually some vacant property adjacent to it that's somewhat small to be used on its own, so it might be a redevelopment opportunity. But at this point, the Quick Trip at that location is closed. Obviously, the one at Goddard and China Mission Parkway is open and up and running. So that's all we had tonight. In terms of
Thank you, Doug. Does the commission have anything for staff? Commissioner Peterson?
I believe we are through discussing the important matters of Shawnee. I move we adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Willoughby, since it's your birthday, you can do the second.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We're done. Thank you all.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I mean, it's always been busy. But the store is not their model.
So there's a coffee house that opened up in their plant room or whatever. It's all the rage. All the bus chains.
Parking for a second.